The apartment had become a museum of silence. Every evening, I'd come home to find her already sequestered in the home office, the door closed, the light from her laptop casting shadows under the crack. Dinner was a solitary affair, leftovers reheated in the microwave, eaten while scrolling through my phone, the clink of my fork against the plate the only sound in our hollow home. It hadn't always been this way. There was a time when she'd greet me at the door, when we'd cook together, when laughter filled these rooms. But somewhere along the line, around the time she started at Morrison and Blake, things shifted. The late nights became later. The warmth in her eyes cooled to indifference. And me. I became furniture, functional, expected, but utterly unremarkable. "Can we talk?" I'd asked one evening, standing in the doorway of her office. She didn't look up from her screen. "I'm swamped. This presentation is due tomorrow." "You're always swamped." "Because I'm trying to build a career. Some of us have ambitions." The words stung more than she probably intended. Or maybe exactly as much as she intended. I closed the door quietly and walked away, another conversation dying before it could begin. The pattern repeated itself for months. I'd reach out, she'd pull back. I'd suggest date night, she'd have a work event. I'd try to discuss our marriage, she'd tell me I was being dramatic. Slowly, imperceptibly, I stopped trying. I filled my evenings with the gym, old friends, hobbies I'd abandoned. I stopped waiting up for her. I stopped asking about her day. If she noticed, she didn't say anything. Then came the email. Subject line, Morrison and Blake Annual Gala, Partners Welcome. I stared at it on my phone screen, already knowing what was coming. Sure enough, that evening she emerged from her office earlier than usual, her expression almost nervous. "So, the firm's having its annual party next Saturday," she said, leaning against the kitchen counter. "It's kind of a big deal. All the partners will be there, and a few potential clients I've been courting." "Okay," I said neutrally, continuing to chop vegetables for my dinner. "I need you to come with me." I looked up at that. "Need?" "Yes, need." She crossed her arms. "It's important for my image. Everyone else brings their spouses. It looks bad if I show up alone, like I can't maintain a stable home life." There it was. Not "I want you there" or "I'd love your company." I was a prop. A accessory to complete her professional costume. "Please," she added, and I could hear the strain in her voice. "Just this once. You don't even have to stay the whole time. Just make an appearance, smile for a few photos, chat with some people." I set down the knife and studied her. Really looked at her for the first time in weeks. She was thinner, dark circles under her eyes poorly concealed by makeup. Her designer blouse was impeccable, but her fingers worried at the hem nervously. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. "What's in it for me?" I asked quietly. She blinked. "What?" "You've ignored me for months. Treated me like I'm invisible in my own home. Now you want me to play the doting husband for your colleagues. That's not fair. I've been busy. And I've been here. Waiting. Trying. Until I stopped." I turned back to my vegetables. "But sure, I'll go to your party. I'll even wear a nice suit. I'll smile and be charming." Relief flooded her face. "Thank you. I really—" "I'm not finished," I interrupted. "I'll go, and I'll be perfectly polite. But don't expect me to pretend everything's fine between us. Don't expect me to hover around you all night or play the devoted partner. You want me there for appearances? Fine. But that's all you're getting. Appearances." She opened her mouth, closed it, then nodded stiffly. "Fine. As long as you're there." As she walked back to her office, I wondered if she understood what I was really saying. Probably not. She hadn't been listening to me for a long time. The party was in 6 days. I ordered a new suit online and went back to making dinner for one. The ballroom at the Riverside Hotel was exactly what I expected. Crystal chandeliers, white-clothed tables, and a crowd of people wearing ambition like expensive cologne. She'd been tense the entire drive over, checking her makeup in the visor mirror, adjusting her emerald dress for the dozenth time. "Remember," she said as we pulled into the parking garage, "Mitchell Richardson will be here. He's the senior partner I told you about. And Sarah Kwan from the Chen account. Please be engaging." "I'll be delightful," I assured her, my tone flat enough that she shot me a look. Inside, she transformed instantly. The nervous woman from the car vanished, replaced by someone confident, radiant, working the room with practiced ease. Her hand found my elbow as we entered, a gesture that would have warmed me months ago. Now it felt like a leash. "There's Mitchell." She pulled me toward a silver-haired man holding court near the bar. "Mitchell, so good to see you." The introductions were mechanical. I shook hands, smiled appropriately, laughed at the right moments. I was the perfect husband, for exactly 10 minutes. Then I excused myself. "Getting a drink," I murmured. "You want anything?" "No, I'm fine." She barely looked at me, already deep in conversation about quarterly projections. At the bar, I ordered a whiskey and surveyed the room. That's when I noticed him. Mid-30s, designer stubble, talking animatedly with a group near the windows. But every few seconds, his eyes drifted toward my wife. And every time they did, she seemed to glow a little brighter. Interesting. First time at one of these torture sessions. A woman appeared beside me, waving down the bartender. She was petite, sharp-eyed, with a name tag that read Jennifer Torres, marketing director. That obvious. You have the look of someone contemplating an escape route. She grinned. "I'm Jennifer. And you're?" "Married to the woman currently monopolizing Mitchell Richardson," I said, raising my glass in their direction. "Ah, you're her husband. She talks about you." Something in Jennifer's tone made me doubt that was entirely positive. "She's very driven. One of the rising stars." "So I'm told." We fell into easy conversation. Jennifer was funny, self-deprecating about her own work struggles, and refreshingly honest about office politics. When another colleague joined us, Tom something, from accounting, the conversation expanded into a comfortable group. I saw my wife glance over once, then twice. The second time, her eyes narrowed slightly when she saw me laughing at something Jennifer said. "Good. Let her wonder." "Your wife looks like she wants to murder me," Jennifer whispered, not unkindly. "Should I be worried?" "Only if you're afraid of someone who's spent the last 3 months treating me like expired milk." Jennifer's eyebrows rose, but she had the grace not to pry. Instead, she introduced me to more people. I discovered I was actually good at this, the mingling, the small talk, the casual networking. Without my wife anchoring me, I was free to be myself. People responded to it. An hour passed. Then another. I worked the room like a politician, collecting business cards, sharing stories, genuinely connecting with strangers who found me more interesting than I'd found myself in months. And through it all, I felt her gaze tracking me like a spotlight. Finally, she appeared at my elbow, her smile tight. "Can I talk to you?" "Of course." I excused myself from a conversation about fantasy football and followed her to a quiet corner. "What are you doing?" she hissed. "Mingling. Isn't that what you wanted?" "I wanted you to stay with me, to help me make connections." I tilted my head. "You told me to be engaging. I'm being engaging. Just not exclusively with you." Her jaw tightened. "People are asking where you disappeared to. It looks weird that we're not together." "Does it?" "Because for months, we haven't been together. I'm just making that visible." I kept my voice even, almost kind. "You wanted appearances. Here we are, appearing. Just not in the way you scripted." "You're being childish." "I'm being honest. There's a difference." I started to walk away, then paused. "By the way, who's the guy by the windows? The one you keep looking at?" She flushed. "That's Aaron. He's just a colleague." "Sure he is." I smiled without warmth. "Enjoy your evening. I'll be around." I left her standing there and rejoined Jennifer's group, who were now dissecting the terrible catering choices. From across the room, I saw Aaron approach my wife, saw them talk in low voices, saw her gesture in my direction. Aaron's eyes found me, assessment clear in his gaze. The thing about being invisible for months is that you learn to see very clearly. From my vantage point near the dessert table, I watched the subtle dynamics of the room like a nature documentary. The hierarchies, the alliances, the careful dance of ambition and ego. And I watched my wife panic. She kept circling back to Mitchell Richardson, laughing too loudly at his jokes, touching his arm with practiced familiarity. But her eyes kept darting to me, to Aaron, back to me. The confident woman who'd walked in 2 hours ago was beginning to crack. "You're enjoying this, aren't you?" Jennifer had reappeared with a plate of tiny desserts that probably cost more than they were worth. "Is it that obvious?" Only to someone paying attention. Which, for the record, several people are. She popped a chocolate truffle in her mouth. "The rumor mill is already grinding. Apparently, you're either A, having an affair with me, B, about to leave her, or C, both." I nearly choked on my drink. That was fast. Office parties are basically Roman Colosseums. Everyone's here for the blood. She studied me with curiosity. "So what's the real story? You don't have to tell me, but you seem like you need to tell someone." Maybe it was the whiskey. Maybe it was the months of silence. Maybe it was just nice to have someone actually ask. I gave her the abbreviated version, the emotional absence, the dismissal, the slow death of trying. Jennifer listened without judgment. When I finished, she just nodded. "And tonight was supposed to be her reclaiming you as her prized possession for the crowd." "Something like that." "Well, you're certainly not cooperating." She grinned. "I approve. Passive resistance is underrated." Across the room, I saw my wife extract herself from a conversation and make her way toward Aaron. He was alone now, checking his phone. When she approached, he looked up, but his smile was polite, distant. They talked for maybe 30 seconds before he excused himself, leaving her standing alone in the middle of the ballroom. The vulnerability on her face was stark. For a moment, she looked lost, scanning the crowd like she was searching for a lifeline. Her eyes found mine. I raised my glass in a small salute and turned back to Jennifer. "That's cold," Jennifer murmured. "That's fair," I corrected. The evening progressed. I was introduced to a senior partner's wife who shared my love of mystery novels. We spent 20 minutes enthusiastically discussing plot twists and unreliable narrators. I helped an awkward intern navigate a conversation with the CFO. I even ended up in a surprisingly deep discussion about urban planning with Tom from accounting. And through it all, my wife drifted through the party like a ghost, trying to recapture the magic of the evening's beginning and failing. People were polite but distracted. Conversations that should have been golden opportunities fizzled. Aaron avoided her entirely, staying on the opposite side of the room. At one point, Sarah Kwan, the client my wife had mentioned, approached me instead. "You're her husband, right?" Sarah had the direct manner of someone who didn't waste time. "She's been trying to get a meeting with me for weeks." "I've heard." "Tell me something." "She's good at her job, I can see that from the proposal she sent. But is she someone I can trust? Someone who keeps commitments?" The question hung between us, loaded with implications. I could have lied. Could have played the supportive spouse, said all the right things. 6 months ago, I would have. Honestly. I met her gaze. I don't know anymore. She used to be. But lately, she's been very good at saying what people want to hear and very bad at following through. Sarah nodded slowly. "That's what I thought. Thank you for the honesty." She walked away, and I felt a pang of guilt, quickly suppressed. I'd told the truth. If that damaged my wife's prospects, well, maybe she should have thought about that before treating our marriage like an afterthought. By 10 o'clock, the party was winding down. My wife found me near the coat check, her perfect makeup now showing cracks, her eyes red-rimmed. "We need to leave," she said quietly. "Okay." The car ride was silent for the first 10 minutes. Then, at a red light, she spoke. "You sabotaged me tonight." I kept my eyes on the road. I did exactly what you asked. I showed up. I was polite. I mingled. You ignored me. You made me look bad. No, I said calmly. I stopped making you look good. There's a difference. For months, you've ignored me, dismissed me, treated me like I'm some burden you're stuck with. Tonight, I simply gave you the same energy back. How did it feel? She didn't answer. When I glanced over, tears were streaming down her face, ruining what was left of her mascara. Everyone was talking about us, she whispered. About how distant you were. Sarah Kwon won't return my calls now. Mitchell barely spoke to me after the first hour. And Aaron. What about Aaron? She covered her face with her hands. He avoided me all night. He wouldn't even look at me. Maybe he's not interested in someone whose marriage is clearly falling apart, I suggested. Or maybe he's just not that into you. That's cruel. That's honest. I pulled into our apartment complex. You wanted me there as a prop. But props don't have feelings. I do. And mine are exhausted. She didn't sleep that night. I heard her pacing in the living room, the soft sound of crying, the even softer sound of ice cubes in a glass. Around 3 a.m, our bedroom door creaked open. Are you awake? Her voice was small, nothing like the confident professional from earlier. I am now. She sat on the edge of the bed, keeping distance between us. In the darkness, I could just make out her silhouette, shoulders hunched, head bowed. I didn't realize, she began, then stopped. No, that's a lie. I did realize. I just didn't think that you'd actually. Stop trying. I finished for her. Yes. The word was barely audible. You've always been there. Always patient. Always understanding. I thought that's just how you were. How we were. I sat up, switched on the bedside lamp. She looked terrible, eyes swollen, hair disheveled, still wearing the emerald dress that had looked so perfect hours ago. Now it just looked expensive and uncomfortable. Tell me about Aaron, I said. She flinched. There's nothing to tell. Don't lie to me. Not now. You've been emotionally checked out of this marriage for months, and tonight you looked at him the way you used to look at me. So tell me the truth. She was quiet for a long time. Then, slowly, she spoke. He's a senior associate. Smart, ambitious, funny. We worked late together a lot. He made me feel seen, important. Not like a wife or a burden, but like someone who mattered for who I was, not what I could provide. So you had an affair? No. She looked up sharply. No, I didn't. I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But I didn't. I let myself imagine it. Let myself get caught up in the fantasy of being someone new, someone without commitments or complications. And me? What was I in this fantasy? You were the complication. Her voice broke. The thing holding me back from this new, exciting version of myself. And I resented you for it. For being steady and reliable and always there, because it meant I couldn't just escape. The honesty was brutal. But at least it was honest. What happened tonight? I asked. With Aaron. He told me he's engaged. His girlfriend, fiancée now, works at his old firm. They've been together for 4 years. She laughed bitterly. All this time, I thought there was something between us. But I was just a work friend. Someone to have lunch with, to vent about cases with. He had no idea that I thought. That he was your exit strategy. She nodded miserably. And then tonight, watching you laugh with all those people, watching you be charming and engaging and everything you always are, but not with me. Not for me. I realized what I'd thrown away. What I was still throwing away. I should have felt vindicated. Triumphant. Even. Instead, I just felt tired. Do you know what the worst part was? I asked. Not the distance. Not even the emotional affair that wasn't quite an affair. It was feeling like I didn't matter. Like I was an NPC in your life, just there to make your story work, but not a real person with real feelings. I'm sorry. The tears started again. I'm so sorry. I was selfish and cruel, and I took you for granted. I thought you'd always be there, always be mine, no matter how badly I treated you. I thought I could have both, my career ambitions and you waiting patiently at home. You could have, I said quietly. If you'd just talked to me. If you'd included me instead of shutting me out. I never wanted to hold you back. I wanted to be your partner, not your obstacle. I know that now. I know that. Too late. The words fell between us like a guillotine. She stared at me, mascara-stained tears tracking down her face. What? I said it's too late. I met her gaze steadily. Tonight wasn't revenge. It wasn't some calculated punishment. It was me realizing that I don't want to be married to someone who only values me when they think they're losing me. I don't want to spend my life waiting for you to remember I exist. Please. She reached for my hand. I let her take it, but I didn't squeeze back. Please, don't do this. I'll change. I'll make time. We can go to counseling. You'll what? Make promises you can't keep? Again. I pulled my hand away gently. I watched you tonight. Really watched you. And I realized something. You weren't upset because our marriage is falling apart. You were upset because it made you look bad in front of your colleagues. Because Aaron wasn't interested. Because your carefully constructed image cracked. That's not fair. Isn't it? When did you come to me tonight? After the party ended and your professional night was ruined. Not when you saw me laughing with Jennifer. Not when you realized I wasn't playing the role you assigned me. Only when it finally impacted you. She couldn't argue because we both knew it was true. I do love you, she whispered. I know I haven't shown it, but I do. Maybe you do. But love isn't enough when it's not accompanied by respect, by consideration, by actually seeing your partner as a person. I stood up, grabbed my pillow. I'm sleeping on the couch. Tomorrow, we can talk about what comes next. But right now, I need space. Don't go. Her voice was desperate. Please, just stay. Just talk to me. I paused at the doorway. That's all I wanted for months. For you to stay. To talk to me. Now you know how it feels. Sunlight streamed through the living room windows, harsh and unforgiving. I woke to find her sitting in the armchair across from the couch, still in that emerald dress, watching me sleep. How long she'd been there, I couldn't say. I've been thinking, she said when she saw my eyes open. All night. About everything you said. About everything I've done. I sat up, my neck protesting the awkward angle of the couch. And? You're right. About all of it. Her voice was hoarse from crying, from lack of sleep. I've been terrible. Selfish. I convinced myself my career was the most important thing, that everything else, everyone else, should just accommodate that. Including you. Why? It was a simple question, but one I'd never really gotten an answer to. Why did I become the enemy? She drew her knees up, hugging them like a child. Because you were safe. Because I knew, no matter how badly I treated you, you'd still be there. You became the place I could be my worst self because you loved me enough to take it. She laughed bitterly. God, that sounds even more horrible out loud. It does. My mother did the same thing to my father, she continued quietly. Worked all the time, made him the low priority, took him for granted. And he stayed. For 30 years, he stayed, and she just kept taking and taking until there was nothing left of him but resentment and silence. I swore I'd never be like her. And yet. She looked at me with raw honesty. Somewhere along the way, I became exactly what I feared. The difference is, you're not my father. You're not going to stay and slowly dissolve into bitterness. I stood, walked to the window. Our apartment overlooked a small park where early morning joggers were already out, starting their days with purpose and energy. Everything out there seemed so normal, so far removed from the wreckage of our marriage. "I don't want a divorce," I said finally. "Not really. But I also can't go back to how things were." "I'm not asking you to." She stood, came to stand beside me, close, but not touching. "I'm asking for a chance to do better. To actually be your partner, not your burden or your burden bearer." Words are easy at 5 in the morning when you're terrified of being alone. "They are," she agreed. "Which is why I'm not just offering words." She pulled out her phone, showed me her screen. It was an email, time-stamped 4:47 a.m., to her boss. "I'm requesting a transfer to a different department. One with regular hours. No more late nights, no more weekend emergencies. I also turned down the senior associate position I've been gunning for." I stared at the email. "You can't do that. You've worked so hard." "For what?" she interrupted. "To impress colleagues who barely know my name? To chase a partnership that would consume what's left of my life? Last night, I had everything I thought I wanted within reach. And all I could think about was how empty it felt without you actually being there with me, not just next to me. One email doesn't fix months of neglect." I know it doesn't. But it's a start." She finally looked at me, really looked at me, the way she used to. "I can't undo the damage I've done. I can't give you back the months of loneliness and feeling invisible. But I can promise to spend however long it takes trying to make it right. If you'll let me." I wanted to believe her. God, part of me desperately wanted to believe her. But another part, the part that had been hurt and dismissed and forgotten, was screaming warnings. "I need to see it," I said carefully. "Not promises. Not grand gestures. Just consistent, daily proof that I matter to you. That we matter to you." "Okay." She nodded. "Okay. What do you need?" "Therapy. For both of us, together and separately. I need you to actually show up for it, not cancel because of work emergencies." "Done." "I need actual conversations. About your day, about mine, about us. Not just logistics and scheduling, but real connection." "Yes." "And I need you to understand that rebuilding trust takes time. I'm not going to just flip a switch and go back to being the devoted husband who waits patiently while you build your empire. If you fall back into old patterns, I'm done. No second chances after this one." She nodded, tears streaming down her face again. But these were different, not panicked or desperate, but something almost like relief. Can I hug you?" she asked tentatively. I hesitated, then nodded. She wrapped her arms around me, and for the first time in months, it didn't feel like an obligation or a performance. It felt like two broken people trying to figure out if they could be whole together. "I saw you last night," she whispered against my chest. "Really saw you. The way you lit up talking to people, the way they responded to you. You were magnificent. And I realized I've been so busy chasing my own dreams that I forgot to see yours. Forgot to see you." "I almost forgot too," I admitted. "Last night reminded me that I'm more than just your husband. I'm a person. And I deserve to be treated like one." "You do. You absolutely do." We stood there as the sun rose higher, neither of us willing to let go first. Eventually, she pulled back. "I should shower. Change out of this dress. Maybe sleep for a few hours." "Okay. And then maybe we could get breakfast. Somewhere nice. And just talk. Really talk." I considered her carefully. The makeup-smudged face, the rumpled designer dress, the vulnerability in her eyes, it was all real. Whether it would last, I couldn't know. But maybe it was worth finding out. "Breakfast sounds good," I said. 3 months later, we were sitting in a different restaurant, not fancy, just our neighborhood diner, splitting an omelette and arguing good-naturedly about whether pineapple belonged on pizza. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then turned it face down on the table. "Work?" I asked. Can wait until Monday. She reached across the table for my hand. I'm here now. And she was. Not perfectly, there were still hard days, still moments when old patterns tried to reassert themselves. The therapy was difficult and uncomfortable and necessary. We had to relearn how to be married to each other, had to rebuild foundation stones that had crumbled. But she was trying. Every day, in small ways and large, she was trying. Coming home at reasonable hours. Asking about my day and actually listening. Putting her phone away during dinner. Remembering that marriage was a partnership, not a performance. The work party the following year was different. We arrived together and stayed together, not because she needed me as a prop, but because we genuinely wanted to be there as a unit. When Jennifer approached with a knowing smile, my wife extended her own hand first. I don't think we've properly met, she said warmly. I'm his wife. Thank you for being kind to him when I wasn't. Jennifer blinked in surprise, then shook her hand. Everyone deserves kindness. I'm glad you figured that out. Later, as we danced to some forgettable pop song, she rested her head on my shoulder. Do you forgive me? She asked quietly. Really? I'm working on it, I answered honestly. Some days more than others. That's fair. But I'm here. And I'm trying too. That counts for something. It counts for everything. The truth was, we'd never be the couple we were before. That version of us had died somewhere in those months of silence and neglect. But maybe, just maybe, we were building something better, something more honest, more resilient, more real. And if that meant remembering the party where everything broke open, where I'd returned the energy she'd given me and watched her world crack apart, well, maybe that was a memory worth keeping. Not as a weapon or a reminder of pain, but as a marker of where we'd been and how far we'd come. I love you, she said. I know, I replied. And slowly, carefully, I was learning to believe it again. The song ended. The party continued. And we stayed, together, not because we had to, but because we chose to. Every day, we chose to. And that made all the difference.